So a few of you have reminded me in my comment section that I have never came back to this thing to give my final thoughts on it. That's the DCF923 DeWalt Stubby Impact. So we'll start off with a quick recap. A little working area here. Professional as always on this channel, guys. Fuck. It's like Pet Cemetery. I think I'm going to need a priest. So, to start off, the reason I bought this, well, part of the reason I bought this was because I've always used a 1/4 inch impact for panels, things of that nature. Bolts with head sizes, 9/16, 15 millimeter and down. And, I've always used this. It's done well for what it is. It's actually does better than you'd think for being just a 1/4 inch. I had two problems with it. One, of course, would be the lack of power, and the other one is just the overall size of it. If you can see the difference there with the adapter on there, it just puts it way out in front. The other problem I had was this thing weighs a ton. It's always in my van because I don't keep it in my bag, because my bag's like 80 pounds the way it is right now, not including this big monster in it. So, and a lot of times, because I'm a road mechanic, I end up having to go into buildings carrying my tools, and I don't know, what's this thing probably worth, 4 or 5 pounds with a battery on it. So it's just it's heavy, and if I could save weight when I can, it's nice. And also this thing, like I said, wasn't anything beyond that 9/16, 14, 15 millimeter size. I'd have to get this if it needed to be impacted, or I'd have to use a manual wrench. And what am I, a caveman? So this thing also comes in handy because it'll knock out bigger bolts when I would normally have to get this, which more often than not requires a walk out to my van. And sometimes, I'm not right next to my van. I'm inside a building and in some dirty little hole somewheres. So I originally wanted to buy this. Well, actually, I was originally looking at the M12 stubby impact to add to my Milwaukee collection, but it just so happened at the same time, Torque Test channel, I highly recommend them. They do some pretty cool stuff as far as apples to apples comparisons. I'll put the link to their channel in my description. But yeah, Torque Test channel started testing this next generation DeWalt stubby impacts. And I mean, these things were just rocking it. So I was like, what the hell? I already got the batteries for the damn things. Why not just buy this thing? So starting off, we'll start off with, we'll call it negative. I mean, it's by design, so I really can't fault it, but it's just something I've noticed with these things. So first off, again, this is part of the design of the tool. It's not really a complaint, it's just something I noticed. This thing is really back heavy, even with the bigger 5 amp hour battery on it. Just has a tendency to want to do that. So if you're using it, I would lay it down. I just have a habit. You should probably lay your tools down like that anyway when you're using them, but I just have a habit of sitting them on the battery like that. And this has taken a few tumbles off of forklifts, so I mean, I can attest to the durability of it because it's hit the ground a few times. The other thing I noticed with it is because of the stubby nature of it, the battery will stick out a little further. So I do have a few customers that I service their golf carts, and I noticed taking the wheels off, I should say, you do have to put a little bit of an extension on it because it won't fit inside the well, which is the rim. Now, as far as eliminating my need to actually pull this out of the van, this has definitely helped out a lot in that situation. Good example, I had a problem with my van tire the other day. Those lugs torque up to 150 foot-pounds. This took them off no problem. I put them back on and torqued them, of course, because I don't want the wheel to fall off while I'm driving down the road. I've had a couple of situations with forklifts, lugs I had to remove, and they are 1 1/16. In case you don't know, forklift rims, they're like that thick of steel, so you don't really need to torque them. I mean, they need to be tight, but you don't need to, check them. So yeah, I put them back on with this, checked them with the breaker bar, and they were as tight as I would have made them with the breaker bar without using the gun. So that's a bonus. I'll continue to do that until I gain a little bit more trust with this thing. Like I said, I don't want a wheel to fall off, but yeah, so far so good on that aspect. I do work on a lot of reach trucks, which is like a stand-up forklift, if you don't know what I'm talking about. And load wheels is a common repair on those. That's the wheels that stick out the front there. They're just little poly wheels about that big. And the forklifts I work on, they use a little clamp that holds the little, it's like a little caddy for the two wheels on, and that's got a big old 1-inch nut on it. Use that non-stop with this gun, and it breaks them loose all the time. And there was a time when I was using this gun for that, so a lot of those I've had to redo just because they wore out, and I put them on with this gun, and this gun hadn't had a problem taking them off. So normally what I would do in that situation is I got these extensions. I have these linked in my direct me link. I'll drop that down in the description, but these have been out of stock forever. These are great. I've used these just as long as I've been using this, and as you can see, I mean, they're in pretty good shape. And you get your standard fare, 3/4, half to 3/4, 3/8 to half, and then quarter to 3/8. The only one I ever use is the 3/8 to half, and they're nice too because they got the low profile. So I keep that extension, or sorry, that adapter in my tool bag with the sockets that I commonly use. This is the 1-inch I usually use for the load wheels I was talking about. And yeah, it works great. It's still nice and small. I mean, even compared to this, I mean, without a socket. So I mean, you got to figure. I mean, I'm saving a lot of space there alone with this type of setup. And yeah, as far as functionality goes, it's nice. I mean, usually Stanley Black & Decker tools, when you run them up against the wall, they just rattle like hell, which is common with, as far as I know, any of their impacts. But this one, I can say, I mean, it does do that. But I can say with this one that the impact mechanism in this, when you're just, running in small bolts and taking out small bolts, it does feel a lot cleaner. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's more of a clean snap than that rattle you get out of these. So yeah, that's about it as far as the comparisons go. One quick thought that I forgot to mention before I close this out: the functionality of the, blind myself, let's turn that off, for the, where to go, the torque limiting setting on this. I honestly kind of thought it was kind of gimmicky when I bought this, but I ended up using it. And what it does is basically, when you're running in a bolt, as soon as it sees torque, it shuts it off, so it doesn't over torque anything. And I find myself using it a lot when I'm lining up a panel. It's got like 4 or 5 bolts in it, and you want to get them in there set loose, but before you actually run them in, so you get the rest of the holes lined up. That function actually comes in handy with this. I mean, you can just be careful on the trigger, but yeah, it makes it so it's just a mindless process, which I'm all for. So yeah, I don't need to say it, but I mean, this obviously isn't a sponsored video. I bought this from Home Depot. I think excuse me, I think Amazon has a version of this with a B on the end, and it's the same price basically. They probably do that for like price comparison reasons, but yeah, so yeah, it's a good tool. It solved the problem. It made my life easier, and which is what you want from any good tool. And I like it. I can't really speak for the longevity of it. Like I said, I've only been using it for about probably a little over a month now. I got at least a dozen batteries through it, but yeah, it does what I need it to do. And yeah, I'm glad I bought it. So yeah, that's about it for this guy. Hope you guys enjoyed it. You got any questions about it, drop them down in the comments. I'll try to answer them as best I can. And that's about it for this. I do have a just a little channel update. I acquired another cheap Chinese tool as compared to an expensive Chinese tool that I will be testing. It's one of my favorites. I've only done a couple of videos on it, but yeah, it should be entertaining. And a couple other things planned, but yeah, we'll get to that at another point. And thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.